My job is to serve others. My job is to create investment opportunities for others and bring others along. And it's not about the slice of the pie. It's about making that pie bigger and bigger and bigger, making that pie infinite.
How did you learn about apartments? And more importantly, why do you think it was a viable strategy for you?
Yeah, well, I didn't initially, man. I had all those limiting beliefs. So we started doing the flipping houses. We tried to buy, we started buying a portfolio of rentals that my wife managed. And while I was still doing the flipping thing, but it was, man, yeah, like you said, it was still work. It was another job. So here I am at a demanding W-2. And then, like my lunch period is just harassing contractors that didn't show up to leave work, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, drive to the properties and try to demand that the contractors come back or try to meet them at 6 in the morning. And it was a pain. For me, what did it was I had to travel a lot to California during 2014, 2015. We were building a major attraction here in Orlando. I'm in Orlando. And we had to travel, for all the design and all that stuff. And so I was in the middle of one of the largest flips that I was doing. I noticed every time I was in California, the contractors were MIA. So I was like, dude, like this 3-month flip is taking 9 months. And I have gray hair now, but like I was looking like you, man. I was in my 20s.
Nice.
But that's when I was like, I got to do something different. I need to figure out how to get into multifamily. So I started trying to investigate, for me, multifamily, and I'm sure for you too, and for a lot of you guys listening, it was duplexes, triplexes, and quads. That's multifamily because, dude, who owns these apartment complexes? It's the wealthy. There's no way that I can get a piece of that. I don't know how I stumbled upon the book Multifamily Millions, and that's what did it for me. It's like that book made it relatable. It was in 2018, and once it clicked for me that, hey, wait a minute, I can buy an apartment building. I just need to figure out how to get people bought in to my vision and my idea and to join me on this journey. And then that for me is when it just clicked, and I said, man, forget risk. Because another thing, as I go through the evolution of this, is that the commercial world is true investment. It's a finance world. And if I went in thinking real estate mindset, flipper mindset, scarcity mindset, when in reality this is a finance game, man. Like this is a different game altogether. And if you're playing checkers while the rest of us are playing chess, you can get ate up.
Well, the reality is, and I actually came from the flipping duplexes, triplexes. I mean, we did more of a little bit of a longer term hold strategy, but they were in some bad areas. So there were a lot of D-class stuff. And that was the only way that we could fathom how to get into the business. It's just starting there, right? And so then you had the challenge of, even if you have a portfolio of those smaller multifamilies that are sub 4 units, and sub 4 units is not commercial multifamily. That's just residential multifamily.
Exactly.
So it's a different game. But then you run into the issues that you would have with like a single family home portfolio. Same exact thing. You got, 20 lawns to mow. You got 20 roofs to look out for deferred maintenance on, just stuff like that. You kind of started down that path, and then you're like, okay, well, there's a bigger game. And
there is, man.
For us, it was like inching into it. So we were like, okay, let's buy like next thing I think it was a 30 unit. Like, oh, we could do a 30 unit. And then it was 50. And then we just kind of scaled up that way. And then we found money along the way to do it. Curious, like, how did that look for you?
Excellent question. For me, it clicked once I realized that it wasn't about me anymore. Once I really understood the chess game, it was no longer checkers. I realized, man, it's not about me getting rich, which is that scarcity mindset, that flipper. And again, I'm not disparaging flippers. That was my mindset when I was doing, because like it's this one house in this one block, and I have to have it, and only I can wholesale this thing, and I have the control of this thing. Once I realized, like, I had an aha moment that my job is to serve others. My job is to create investment opportunities for others and bring others along. And it's not about the slice of the pie. It's about making that pie bigger and bigger and bigger, making that pie infinite. And once that clicked for me, that's when I started launching out. And actually, during 2020, we had the great pandemic, right? I mean, we're still in it, but we had the great pandemic. And I remember seeing all the podcasts, and everybody was like peeling back and saying, hey, let's just stop. Let's just see what's going on in the market. it was a couple Marches ago, but they're like, hey, let's just stop. Let's freeze. Let's not do anything. Everybody was like, all of a sudden was the expert saying, we don't know what's going to happen. We're not going to do any distributions. We're not going to do anything. That's when I called my partner, Myron, my partner in crime. And I'm like, dude, we need to strike. Now that the people are falling asleep, be greedy when others are fearful. And man, we jumped. I was in the middle of a cold calling campaign, but I 10x that thing, especially because I was allowed to work from home. So, man, I just started calling.
One of the issues always is, how do I find the capital to do these larger deals, right? So how did you do that? Right? Because most people are uncomfortable with the thought of raising capital, asking friends and family. They're afraid they don't want to beg people or manipulate people, and have never asked for money before, right? So how did you leg into that? Because you've raised over $6 million at this point, but you had to start somewhere. How did you start doing that?
Started really small, but it was grassroots, believe it or not. So we did a lot of friends and family. We did local seminars. Started renting the HOA clubhouse, and we ended up buying a big screen TV, and we would fit 10 to 30 people in it, and just one by one, grassroots, started building up the database. I would go to local RIAs and just start networking there. Eventually, they let me start presenting there. So I was presenting, you'd be familiar with it, but it's a sample package deal.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
So you start presenting that. I start talking about the benefits of syndication, and that's how I started growing the database. So then, while others were fearful that we got greedy, started making cold calls, found several tired landlords that like, dude, I don't know what's going to happen. I just want to get out of this properties. So that's how we landed our first deal. It's an 11 unit.
So how did you, as you started cold calling owners, how did you get that list, first of all?
We paid CoStar. So we paid up. We paid up. We started farming our markets, Central and North Florida. So we got the list. We curated the list. You could filter out what's a landline and what's a mobile phone number. And it was a mobile phone number. I just started dialing for dollars, man. Like I didn't have a system. My system was my Samsung.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right. So you started calling these owners, and I'm sure you probably didn't connect with a lot of them. They didn't return your phone calls. And so how did that go? I mean, was that, were you very encouraged? Was it more of a discouraging experience? Like, what was it like?
Dude, it was discouraged. The very first round was ultra discouraging after getting cussed out. Because it's okay when people don't answer. That's okay. You kind of afraid. You kind of don't want them to answer, but then when they answer and they cuss you out, that's not a good feeling. But I had a lot of encouragement from friends and family and peers that that I had met through networking. Just said, just keep calling, and eventually got several up on the hook, man.